What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it is time to give you my 2024 ACC football projections for the 2024 college football season. We have already done our projected standings for the SEC, Big 10, and Big 12. If you have not seen those videos, be sure to go back and check them out right here on the channel. Now we're going to show you our projected standings here for the ACC conference. Going to show you what the standings could look like based on our projected records. Not my official prediction, of course. These are simply projections based on how tough every single team's schedule was for every single ACC team. So let's go ahead and get right into our projected standings here for the ACC. We'll start here with the bottom and work our way to the top. And we will start here from 13 to 17. So yeah, 17 teams now in the ACC this year, with all newcomers, of course, coming in from the Pac-12. And also one team coming from the group of 5 as well. We start at the bottom here. We got Georgia Tech here at the bottom, projected to go 4-8 and then 2-6 here in the conference. I know a lot of Georgia Tech fans are not going to agree with this projection, but it really isn't just about the overall projected record. It's really more about the schedule for Georgia Tech. Yes, this team was a really big surprise last year, but again, it's all about the schedule when we went through these projections for all these teams. Georgia Tech has a pretty tough schedule, and don't get me wrong, they get a tough schedule every year, but they had to play a couple of tough non-conference games. They have to play Notre Dame. They get that game at home, but they had to play on the road at Georgia and Athens. So, and again, they play Georgia every single year because that's their rival game, and obviously that's always very tough to play here if you're a Georgia Tech fan. And then you look at their conference schedule. They're going to have that big game in Ireland against Florida State in the season opener, week number 0, and they have to play Louisville, North Carolina, both on the road. They get NC State and Miami both at home, and that's a very tough schedule for Georgia Tech. And don't get me wrong, I think Georgia Tech is definitely going to be better than that 4-8 projection, but based off of their schedule, they are projected to go 4-8 and then 2-6 here in the conference, so they are at the bottom here of the ACC. And then we got California right here at number 16. They're projected to go 5-7 and 2-6 here in the conference. California newcomer, of course, coming over from the Pac-12. We don't know how good they're obviously going to be in their first year in the conference, but they did make it to a bowl game last year. I kind of could see Cal going to a bowl game this year, but based off of their schedule, they are projected to go 5-7. They do have a tough non-conference game on the road at Auburn at Jordan-Hare Stadium in the non-conference, so that will be really tough there for this California team. But either way, they are projected to go 5-7. And then we got Stanford, Wake Forest, and Virginia, all 3 teams projected to go 5-7, coming up just short of bowl game eligibility here. Stanford will start with them. Stanford also a newcomer coming over from the Pac-12. We don't know how good this team is obviously going to be. They're going to have a second-year head coach. They just don't have the roster talent, like they used to, but based off of their schedule, they are projected to go 5-7. They have a non-conference game against TCU out of the Big 12 in the season opener, and they also got to play Notre Dame in the month of October, I should say, maybe like in the month of November, I can't remember, but that's a very tough non-conference schedule. So maybe one of their non-conference games, maybe they lose one out of those 2 games in the non-conference. But based off of the schedule here for Stanford, they are projected to go 5-7, so not actually a bad projection for Stanford. And then Wake Forest, kind of hard to tell how good this team is going to be. Wake Forest is definitely a really consistent team. They're coming off a disappointing season last year. I'm kind of expecting Wake Forest to turn things around, but their schedule is pretty tough in the non-conference. They have to play Ole Miss out of the SEC. The good news is they get that game at home, but we know Wake Forest is going to be the underdog in that game because of how really good Ole Miss is supposed to be this year. So Wake Forest is projected to go 5-7 and then 3-5 here in the conference. And then Virginia comes in, also projected to go 5-7. I actually think Virginia could be a little bit better this year. A lot of people are thinking that the Cavaliers are going to be a little bit better this year compared to the other years where they were really bad. But we saw a little bit of light from Virginia last year. They were very competitive in some other games. They beat North Carolina last year. That was obviously a big win. And they were very competitive against Louisville last year on the road. So watch out for Virginia. Not saying they're going to be a dark horse contender, but they definitely definitely could see some improvement this year and definitely probably make a bowl game, but they are projected to miss out on a bowl game, and according to my projection here at 5-7. So these are my standings here from 13 to 17. Let's now go from 7 through 12. We got Duke here at number 12, projected to go 5-7, and then 3-5 here in the conference. Duke obviously kind of, a bit of a step back from where they were the year before. Also in 2022 when they had that 9-win season. New head coach for the Blue Devils this year, Riley Leonard, of course, gone from the transfer portal. He transferred over to Notre Dame, so that's obviously going to be a big loss there at quarterback for this Duke team. I still think Duke will be pretty good, but they're going to be coming up just short of a bowl game here according to my projection there at 5-7. They do have to play Northwestern in the non-conference. That game will be on the road, of course, so that will probably be a tough game there, and that likely could be one of their losses that does knock them out of a bowl game. But the Blue Devils are projected to go 5-7 based off of their first-year head coach and based off of the roster turnover they had from last year. And then Pittsburgh here, they're projected to go 6-6 and then 3-5 here in the conference. I do expect the Panthers to turn it around this year after a really tough season. Just like Wake Forest, they are a very consistent team in the ACC and a very consistent team in the ACC, or I should say in the program-wise. But Pittsburgh is projected to go 6-6. They do have a tough non-conference schedule. They have to play Cincinnati and West Virginia, two teams out of the Big 12, but they get West Virginia at home, and then they have to play Cincinnati on the road. But one of those games, they could probably win them, and one of them games, they could probably lose to them. But either way, they are projected to go 6-6 based on their schedule. And then Boston College comes in here, projected to go 5-7 and then 3-5 here in the conference. So you're probably wondering, why are the Eagles ahead of the Panthers here? Well, Boston College does get the home field advantage when Boston College and Pittsburgh meet in the last game of the regular season. That's how Boston College ended up being ahead of them. Not saying they're going to beat them, but this is also based off a home and away situation. So Boston College is projected to go 5-7. Boston College has a pretty tough non-conference schedule. They'll play Missouri on the road. They get Michigan State as well out of the Big Ten, but they do get that game at home at least. So a pretty tough schedule compared to last year for Boston College. And then we got SMU and Virginia Tech, two teams that are projected to go to bowl games at 6-6. SMU, of course, a newcomer coming over from the Group of 5 level. They were 11-3 last year. So they are projected to go to a bowl game in their first year in the conference. They do have a couple of tough non-conference games, but the good news is they get both of those games at home. Those two teams that they're playing are BYU and TCU out of the Big 12. So I think they can probably lose one of those games in the non-conference, but their ACC schedule, they're going to have a lot of 50-50 games, so they're going to have a lot of chances to win some of these close games here in the conference. So SMU is projected to go to a bowl game. Not going to be the same SMU team that we saw last year at the Group of 5 level, but I do expect them to probably go to a bowl game. And then Virginia Tech is a team that I think could do better than that 6-6 projection, but based off of where they were last year and based off of their schedule, they are projected to go 6-6. However, they do play for Vanderbilt in the non-conference on the road, but I think they have a really good shot to win that game. They might even be the favorites in that game as well. And then Rutgers, they play them out of the Big Ten, so that's obviously probably going to be a little bit tough, but the good news is they get that game at home. But Virginia Tech is a team that has the most production coming back in the country. They also have the most production coming back in the ACC. So watch out here for the Hokies. They definitely could be a dark horse contender in the ACC this year, and you're definitely going to see that projection or that record change here for Virginia Tech once we get into those predictions. And then Syracuse comes in here, projected to go 7-5 and then 3-5 here in the conference. So Syracuse does play Virginia Tech in the regular season. That's how they ended up ahead of the Hokies here. They're both tied here with ACC wins, but you look at Syracuse's schedule this year, it's pretty easy. They have one of the easiest schedules in the conference this year. I think they can probably do better than that projected record than 7-5, but it comes really down to their talent on the roster. They got Kyle McCord, the transfer from Ohio State, coming in. Hopefully he can probably develop something there at the quarterback position for this Syracuse team. But again, based on their schedule, they are projected to go 7-5. But again, their schedule is pretty easy. They have a really easy non-conference schedule. So also watch out here for the Orange. They could be a dark horse contender in the ACC this year as well. And those are my standings here from 7 through 12. Let's now go to the top 6 here from 1 through 6. We got my Miami, NC State, and North Carolina, they're all projected to go 9-3 and then 6-2 here in the conference. I think Miami will be a little bit improved from where they were the last couple years. Cam Ward, of course, the transfer from Washington State at quarterback coming in, has a lot of experience. He has a great quarterback percentage in his career. I think he develops pretty well at the quarterback position, and I think with Mario Cristobal with him, I think they're going to be a really good coaching duo, or I should say like a good player/coaching duo as well. Miami, like I said, should be a lot better this year. They have been up and down as a team in the last couple years, inconsistent as a team as well, but they brought in a really good recruiting class, so Miami definitely should be a lot better, and they definitely should be a contender for the ACC this year. And then NC State comes in, projected to go 9-3 and then 6-2 in the conference. The Wolfpack should be a top 25 team this year and also another ACC contender. They don't have a really tough schedule, but they do have to play Tennessee out of the non-conference in Charlotte. That's going to be a neutral site game, but I think NC State does have a chance to win that game. And I also forgot to mention Miami does play Florida in the non-conference on the road. That'll be very tough for this Hurricane team, but I think Miami also have a chance to win that game as well. So both NC State and Miami both have really tough games in the non-conference against SEC opponents, but I think they'll definitely compete in those games. And then North Carolina, same thing. They are projected to go 9-3. I know this is not going to be the same North Carolina team that we saw last year. Drake May, of course, obviously going to be gone here for the Tar Heels, but they do have to play Minnesota on the road to start out the season. But like I said, I think the Tar Heels will actually be very competitive in that game. They do play them on the road. I know they beat them last year. I think they can probably compete against Minnesota again. So again, North Carolina, NC State, and Miami. And you're probably wondering, why is North Carolina ahead of NC State? Well, because they do play in the head-to-head, and the Tar Heels do get NC State at home. So again, Miami, NC State, and North Carolina are all projected to go 9-3. And then Louisville comes in here projected to go 10-2 and then 7-1 here in the conference. So you're probably wondering, why is Louisville behind a 9-3 Clemson team? Well, Louisville does play Clemson on the road, so that's how the standings work there. But you look at this Louisville team, they have done an excellent job in the transfer portal. They got a transfer quarterback coming over from Texas Tech. And I just like what Jeff Brom has done here so far at Louisville, and it's just his first year, coming off a 10-win season last year, and then of course maybe another 10-win season this year. They do have a couple of tough non-conference games though against Notre Dame and Kentucky. They're both on the road. They lost to Kentucky last year but beat Notre Dame last year at home. But this year they do play those two games on the road, so that will be very tough here for Louisville. And they obviously do play Clemson on the road as well. So maybe one of their second losses maybe comes in the non-conference, either to Notre Dame or Kentucky. And then Clemson comes in here projected to go 9-3 and then 7-1 here in the conference. Clemson, it's going to come down to their offense this year. Can that offense get better? Can Cade Klubnik get better as well? You look at their non-conference schedule, it's actually pretty tough. They're going to be playing Georgia, of course, in that big game in Atlanta, and then they have to play South Carolina as well, but the good news is they get that game at home. But we'll see if Clemson can improve on the offensive side of the football, but defensively they should be really good on that side of the football. And then Florida State comes in here projected to go 10-2 and then 7-1 here in the conference. Florida State, this is not going to be the same team as we saw last year with Jordan Travis at quarterback, but they got DJ Oagale coming over, the transfer from Oregon State and also a former Clemson quarterback. We'll see how he does here and fits into the system here for Florida State. And I also think it's going to come down to that running back position. They're going to lose Trey Benson at running back. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a different Florida State team, but they are projected to go 10-2 based on their schedule. So I think they'll still be a really good team either way here for Florida State. So they are projected as of right now to win the ACC for me, and those are my 2024 ACC football projections heading into the 2024 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these ACC football standings. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know it in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.